This program is brought to you by Tanduan, Philippine Airlines, North Star Meat Merchants Incorporated, Newport World Resorts, Misibis Bay, McDonald's, LT Group Incorporated, The Original Jamaican Patty Shop and Juice Bar, House of Frutas, Balay Pandesal, Kapi, Cafe Aurora, and Ferinos.
Magandang hapon, Pilipinas. Ito po ang nagpapatuloy na special coverage ng pinagsahid na puwersa ng Bilyonaryo News Channel at Abante Radyo. Ako si Buddy Oberas.
I'm Maiki Oreta. You're watching us live from Beam TV 31, Cignal Channel 24, Converge 74, and SkyCable Channel 33.
You can also watch us on our social media pages for the latest on the elections, including our website, yourvoice2025.bnc.ph. Ako po si Paolo del Rosario.
It's day one after the Philippine midterm elections, and business leaders are watching closely for clues and policy continuity and economic priorities. Joining us now via Zoom is the Executive Chairman of the British Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines, Mr. Chris Nelson. Hi, Chris. Good morning, and thank you for being here with us. Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning and a pleasure to be here.
Okay, there we go. All right, Chris.
Yeah, sure. Good morning and a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, let's start with why the midterms matter first. Chris, you've been a strong advocate for British investment in the Philippines. From your perspective, why do these midterm elections matter so much to the foreign business community?
Well, it matters so much because we want to see the continuity of the policies of the government. We have key legislation we'd like to see passed, such as the Cybersecurity Act, E-Governance and Open Transmission Act, and we want to see the economy continue to grow. Let's not forget was the last quarter GDP was 5.4% to over 6%, and that will be dependent on obviously the continuation of policies and spending on infrastructure. So that's the key for the British Chamber along with other business organizations.
Right, so it's really just continuity and just helping us see what we can do to maintain this economic trajectory. Now, speaking of economic growth, in the first quarter of the year, our GDP came in at 5.4%, below expectations. Expectations were for growth of 5.9%, despite the spending push brought about by the midterm elections. That said, are you concerned about our economic trajectory right now, Chris, regardless of who comes into office?
Well, look, there are a lot of macro factors out there. I mean, obviously, everyone's concerned about the Trump tariffs, the impact that's having on trade overall, and potential. Regarding those figures, were lower than expectations. However, if you consider in comparison to Southeast Asia, I believe the Philippines was second, only with Vietnam being higher. Now, the other good news is inflation went down to 1.4%, driven primarily by obviously lower food prices, for which we have also been partially involved in terms of getting exports of British pork here, which helps on the meat supply. And I think that gives room and opportunity for Banco Central to further cut interest rates, regardless of what the US Federal Reserve Bank does. And I think that's a great opportunity. So, yes, we'd have liked to have seen it closer to 6%, but I think with the opportunity on inflation and our interest rates, that could drive further economic growth in the subsequent quarters.
And you guys, you don't take political sides, you're nonpartisan, but how closely are your members watching these elections?
They will be watching. I mean, particularly, of course, to see what continuity will the government be able to pass its legislation. I mean, as we know, the government, I assume the administration will always still have leadership in the House. The key will be the Senate. As you know, for any legislation, you have to have a bill in the lower house, in the Senate, and then the two versions need to be brought together in a bicameral conference and then passed by the president. So it's the speed of those that you want to see. I mean, it's good. From what I've observed, it's been a very election, and a lot of people have been involved. So that's a very healthy sign and good to see. And clearly what we want to see is those candidates, are they also looking from our side? I mean, of course, they have many other objectives, but what is their views on politics? What's their view on the economy and particular areas of support? As I said, the chamber in particular has been very working on food supply, so those were interested in the sense of food security. And we want to see further reduction in the ease of doing business. That's why we're very important to see e-governance. So those are why the elections are important, and we're very pleased to see it's been a very active election, and congratulations to everybody involved in the organization.
Chris, Paolo here, and of course, as we're taking a look at, well, basically some of the results that we're seeing here. Nice seeing you again, Chris. We take a look at the fact that there is going to be a bit of a transition period in terms of getting to know some of these candidates in terms of their policies, where they stand, or whether or not they're going to push on the issues that you mentioned, which is cybersecurity and e-governance in particular. In terms of getting to know these candidates, in terms of the appetite for investment, how long do you think of a transition period will there be in terms of the UK coming in terms of investments, being more comfortable with the candidates that are in position?
Our activities. I mean, look, I'm speaking to you here from London. I have a meeting later this morning with the Philippine Embassy. We're in discussions with PESA, which is through the Director General Panga, about an investment mission to the UK, which is scheduled to be on or around the 26th of June. The UK and the Philippines has just had its first JETCO, Joint Economic Committee, which is a further enhancement of trade arrangements. And if you look at the UK, it was one of the largest, if not the largest, direct investor in 2024. So I don't think that's going to slow down. The relationship is there and very strong, and we're going to keep pushing. It's more on areas of specific concern. So one of the areas that's always been an issue with small to medium size, but across not just ourselves, but all business areas, is the ease of doing business, which is why we're an ARTA champion, and we'd like to see it continue to be pushed forward. And we can have e-governance because we think up the process. So yes, there will be a settling time, particularly obviously for the Senate, because I believe the first results will only be confirmed next Saturday, and then people have got to come into place. But in terms of the UK and the Philippines trade, we are very consistent and optimistic we're going to keep it at this level. In fact, we plan to grow it higher. I mean, it was at 2.9 billion, and we're looking to make that go higher. So, yes, I think there could be a distinct pause, but in terms of our efforts, they'll be unrelenting.
Yeah, Chris, as you mentioned, the UK is a huge source of foreign direct investments for the Philippines. What are we doing? Why is it strong? What are we doing right? And what can the 20th Congress of the Philippines do in order to really, increase that momentum?
Look, I think what's doing right is the fact the relationships, and all credit to those involved, such as our ambassador, Lord Beaufils, the Department of Business and Trade in the UK, and of course, Department of Trade and Industry in the Philippines, led by Secretary Roque, but we also work very closely with USEC, Alan Gepti. I mean, we have very strong and close relations, which I think helps drive these forward. And of course, our relationship with the Philippine Embassy in London. Now, in specific terms, the UK investment last time was on renewable energy, which is a key focus for the Philippines.
Okay. Now, Chris, on another front.
What we would like to see is further liberalization of the economy.
Okay. Chris, you're cutting out a bit, but, we'll do our best. On another front, there is a big divide.
Yeah, sorry for that.
That's okay. We're making the best out of it. Okay, I was going to ask you, there's a big divide between the current administration and the former administration. How worried are you about this in terms of how it might affect the trajectory moving forward? 3 more years with this administration. This election is going to dictate that direction, whether this administration is going to have the might or whether its hands are going to be tied. How important, is this divide to you, and what do you make of it?
Well, look, again, we don't take any partisan issues between the two sides. However, what we look for is, will it slow down legislation? Stop the government moving forward. I believe that we'll be interested to see how their priority legislation moves forward. We know President Marcos has used very effectively Ladakh. Because, of course, in the Senate. So I think that's the concern we have, not on specific politics, but more in terms of moving the government forward. We haven't seen it yet. We hope that in the next 3 years, because there are also actually a lot of good legislation passed, and all, credit, for example, the Anti-Agricultural Economic Sabotage Act, we're going to support that, and various others. So that's the concern we have. And we look forward, and obviously we're going to be pushing very closely to get that legislation passed as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. And Chris, one last question before we go. You're deeply engaged with the business community here. What is the message you would like to give to our newly elected lawmakers?
Well, our key message would be, please continue to further liberalize the economy. We need to see the Philippines continue to opening up. I think the Philippines has made strides. But we live in a very competitive world. We want the UK investors to come to the Philippines because we believe it's a very important market in its own right, but also a gateway to Southeast Asia. But you're competing against other countries. In that context, our efforts have to be kept up. We have to keep that interest level up, and we have to keep further opening the economy and pushing legislation. And congratulations and good luck to everybody in these elections.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Chris Nelson, the Executive Chairman of the British Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines.
Well, Sir Buddy, of course, kanina naging tema yung continuity. Thank you so much, Chris Nelson, for joining us. Sir Buddy, kanina naging tema yung continuity, especially when it comes to yung legislation. Pero nakita natin, at least base sa mga resulta ng sa Senate race in particular, na medyo hati yung mga administration candidates rather. And yung sinasabing ni VP Sara Duterte, bagong opposition going into this next cycle. At syempre, kung may opposition nga, sa palagay niyo po ba yung current direction of legislation maapektuhan?
Una sa lahat, Pao, natutuwa tayo dahil generally, while yung binabanggit natin, may malaking divide na nangyayari sa pagitan ng malaking puwersa ng politika sa Pilipinas. Still, naging maganda yung resulta so far ng eleksyon at nakikita natin na yung binabanggit mong opposition na sinasabi ni VP Sara, principle, di ba? Sabi niya, is mukhang patungo doon kasi dumadami naman din ang kumbaga kakampi nila na nandyan na sa forma at hugis ng mga resulta so far. But good thing, pwede natin itanong yan mamaya sa ating magiging panauhin.
Tama yan, sir. And of course, syempre, kasi business yung pinag-usapan natin kanina, especially yung foreign direct investments. But Maiki, now that we're seeing a more stronger opposition coming up, or at least a more vocal one with VP Sara in particular, it can only give question marks or at least give food for thought for those like Chris who are looking to...
Opposition is always healthy and it's always there in a democracy. But I think what we're looking at is the formation of the 20th Congress, because this is going to dictate whether or not this current administration, this Marcos administration, is going to have the strength to move its agenda forward or whether its hands are going to be tied. So malalaman rin natin sa resulta. Right now we have the partial official counts and everybody's making their deductions. The margin of error is not that high there. So we're getting having some clarity and some visibility already on the direction forward. And importante to because it's going to set the stage for economic development. The 2026 national budget is going to be on the table. This is what this new 20th Congress is going to tackle. Ano bang magiging priorities natin? Education, infrastructure, sila ang magbubuo, sila ang magdidesisyon tungkol dyan.
Yeah.
So it's important to see who these characters are para maunawaan natin kung anong direksyon nila kasi yun ang magiging direksyon ng bansa.
At Sir Buddy, hindi pa tayo sigurado kung sino nasa oposisyon.
Hindi pa.
Opo.
Tingnan natin kasi fluid pa naman lahat so far. But yun nga, sabi natin na ito lahat ay konektado. Mapabahagi ng ekonomiya or ng politika or legislation, basically.
Rest assured, BNC will take things in stock, connect the dots, and be there right there with you to help analyze everything. Okay, Buddy.
Thank you very much, Mai and Pao. Mga kababayan, dumako po muna tayo ngayon sa exciting city sa Davao kung saan patuloy na nakabantay sina Attorney Karen Jimeno para po sa latest mula dyan sa Davao. Attorney Karen, kamusta na dyan ngayon ang atmosphere?
Okay, magandang hapon mula dito sa Davao kung saan kompleto na ang transmission ng mga boto. Sa 3 distrito dito sa Davao, yung District 3 ang nahuli sa pag-transmit nung last precinct. Ito'y dahil merong mga precincts sa District 3 na nasa far-flung areas kung saan nahirapan silang kumuha ng signal. At bumuhos din ng malakas na ulan dun sa mga ibang bahagi ng District 3, kaya nagkaroon ng delay doon sa pagbiyahe para dalihin yung mga SD cards for manual transmission. But at 11:30 a.m., inanunsyo ng Board of Canvassers na 100% na ng mga precincts ang nakapag-successfully transmit ng mga boto. Binasa din ng Board of Canvassers ang official number of votes tallied per candidate sa local positions. Sinundan ito ng printing and generating of the certificates of canvass at ngayon, ang nangyayari dito sa likod namin ay yung pagpipirma or signing ng certificates of canvass in the presence of witnesses na representatives ng mga kandidato. Pagkatapos nito ay nagkaroon din ng transmission of the certificates of canvass to the National Board of Canvassers. Base sa official tally, nanalo ang lahat ng mga miyembro ng Duterte family at ang kanilang mga kaalyado. So simulan natin yung mga numbers that we saw today as announced by the Board of Canvassers. For the position of Mayor of Davao City, despite being detained in The Hague, former President Rodrigo Duterte won by a landslide with 662,630 votes, followed by Carlo Nograles with 80,852 votes. For the position of Vice Mayor, we have Sebastian Baste Duterte winning also by a huge margin with 651,356 votes, followed by independent candidate Bernie Alag na nasa 78,893 votes. What's also interesting is how the districts that elected, yung mga representatives nila, also came out. So Paolo Pulong Duterte also led with 203,557 votes. At malayo yung second, which is Migs Nograles at 49,186 votes. For the second district, the son of Paolo Duterte also won by a huge margin, with a total of 164,432 votes. And this is for Omar Duterte, followed by Partido Federal candidate Javi Garcia Campos at 90,156. For the third district of Davao, it is an ally of the Dutertes, yung sa kanilang local party na HTL, who won also by a huge margin, Isidro Ungab with 178,721, followed by Nonoy Alag at 30,687. For the council members, ganun din, ang largest number of votes went to the grandson of former President Rodrigo Duterte, which is Rodrigo Duterte II, with a total of 192,324. A pattern that we observed here in Davao City is that the local party of the Duterte family, yung HTL, o hugpong ng taong, won by a huge margin then for all the positions that they fielded dito sa mga councilors. So that's a situation here in Davao City. Back to you at the studio.
Salamat. Attorney Karen Jimeno, nagulat mula sa Davao City.
You're watching Your Voice 2025, a special election coverage brought to you by the Bilyonaryo News Channel and Abante Radyo. We'll be right back after this short break.
This program is brought to you by DWAR, Philippine Airlines, North Star Meat Merchants Incorporated, Newport World Resorts, Misibis Bay, McDonald's, LT Group Incorporated, The Original Jamaican Patty Shop and Juice Bar, House of Frutas, Balay Pandesal, Kapi, Cafe Aurora, and Ferinos.
Kayo po'y patuloy na nanonood ng Your Voice 2025, ang special elections coverage ng pinagsabi na puwersa ng Bilyonaryo News Channel at Abante Radyo. Ano kaya ang sinasabi ng mga netizens sa mga oras na ito? Alamin nga po natin yan kasama si Paolo del Rosario.
Salamat, Buddy. Tignan natin kung paano nag-celebrate or maybe perhaps condoling online dahil tapos na po ang liquor ban. At dahil doon, mayroon na nag-celebrate ngayon. Actually, may mga nagsasabi na the elections didn't go my way, kaya shut puno. Of course, that is what's happening over on social media. There are a lot of people celebrating. There are a lot of people not happy with how the election went in particular. But as you can see here, syempre, dahil tapos na po ang liquor ban, they're all ready for this. This could go in any way. Pero not only that, as we went to our polling places, we all discovered on how we all look like sa national ID po natin. Kung ito po ang profile picture nyo, this is how you look like sa national ID. Ako personally, parang payat ko sa national ID picture ko. Kaya sana, parang baliktad ata ito para sa akin. But of course, that's a different story for everyone. Still, at the end of the day, yung nakita naman natin sa social media po natin, marami po naka-purple mark sa daliri. And of course, that's not it. We're speaking about the election results. We have to go into one of the most talked about mayoral races in this particular election cycle, and that is, of course, the Pasig City po. Let's take a look at the post from mayoral hopeful si Sara Diskaya, where she practically conceded here, hindi po kami pinalad sa boto, pero sa puso ko, alam kong panalo tayo. Now, it was a landslide victory for Mayor Vico Soto as we take a look at her post here. And it was not the most hotly contested race, but definitely one of the most talked about mayoral races dito po sa election cycle na to. And of course, she says that she will continue to serve the public in her own capacity, even despite not winning. She also thanked her supporters and of course looking forward to what she can do next. But that is it from us online. Buddy, back to you.
Maraming salamat, Paolo. At sa pagkakataon pong ito ay makakasama natin ang isa sa mga convener ng Election Watchdog kontra Daya. Wala iba kundi si Professor Danilo Araw. Prof, magandang hapon po at welcome sa ating special coverage pa rin sa eleksyon katatapos.
Kontradayang hapon, Buddy, Maiki at Paolo. Maraming salamat sa invitasyon.
Salamat po sa pagpunta sa amin. Pagtutulungan ka po namin na pigain sa mga observation ninyo, primarily siguro sa mga... Pero bago yan, simulan lang namin, nagkaroon kayo ng mobilization this morning, 10 o'clock.
Apo.
Ano pong layunin nito? Anong ginawa nyo, Prof, para lang sa update?
Ang layunin ay para irehistro yung aming mga sentimiento at yung produkto ng aming pananaliksik batay sa dokumentasyon ng nangyari kahapon at maging yung mga nangyaring aberya nung panahon ng kampanya. Ito pala yung magpapaliwanag, mga kaibigan, kung bakit ito yung t-shirt ko. Kasi yung Kontradaya t-shirt ay nabasa ng pawis, kaya napilitan ako magsuot ng unang-unang shirt na nasa bag ko. At isang news media organization yung nakalagay. Pasensya na po.
Apo.
But at any rate...
walang daya dyan, Prof.
Apo, walang daya.
Okay.
I'm transparent, unlike the COMELEC, which is not.
Okay. Going to that, yung transparency, ano ano yung nakikita nyo sa ngayon based sa mga nangyari na yung sa transparency issue nga sa COMELEC?
Talagang may malaking kakulangan sa transparency. Allow me to start with the fundamental issue of automated election. Even the source code remains in question. I'm sure you've heard about the controversial software upgrade which apparently did not go through technical evaluation. But last night, here comes the COMELEC chairperson himself fact-checking the previous fact-check of COMELEC. He's now saying that the TEC or the Technical Evaluation Committee actually conducted the source code review of the current version, not the previous one. Because the previous one, which was uploaded on the COMELEC website, is said to be the outdated version. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. Because right now, if we would look at the experience of many of the Board of Election inspectors, they do not have ready answers to the dilemmas faced by many of the voters. And that's why even the lack of information dissemination is very telling. We can also talk about the overseas voting, where there is a struggle in terms of registering for internet voting. And the data that we're getting, at least on a preliminary level, is that the voter turnout turned out to be very, very, very low. And that's the reason why we have trust issues with the COMELEC, and we've articulated that, I think, very well in our mass action this morning.
Okay. Prof, balikan ko lang para sa mga tagapanood din natin. Basically, ilan pong mga lugar o kaya yung mga irregularities sa iba't ibang lugar ang i-document na or ni-record nyo sa Kontradaya?
Of course, the more prominent one would be that to Odinsinsuat in Maguindanao, which was a very, very telling manifestation of impunity that informs that area. The problem with our data set is that it's very much crowdsourced. So much of the information came from the National Capital Region. That's not to say that this is the most problematic one. It's just that in terms of quantity of the data set, that's what we got. So there are problems in the election process in Quezon City, in Marikina, as well as certain parts of Davao. And we also are able to get information from Bicol. The common theme is that there are long lines. The priority voters, the senior citizens, pregnant women, and those and the PWDs, they're not able to vote properly. And if they do opt for being given priority, there are runners who would get the ballots and then feed the ballots to the ACM after checking. That's why there are many senior citizens who opted to just simply, go the regular route so that they can feed the ballot themselves. And there are cases, but let's not forget, and this is very important, some centers or some holding areas for senior citizens are not on the ground floor but on the second or third floor, which is hard and very inconvenient. We should give more priority to our senior citizens, PWDs, and pregnant women, but the opposite has happened, unfortunately.
Pabor ba kayo na magkaroon sila eventually sa masusunod na eleksyon ng separate na araw?
Separate
Para
na araw?
makaboto.
We have to check the Constitution on that because the Constitution states that voting should only be done on a specific date in May, right? Pero pwede namang maging flexible, and I would tend to agree kasi meron tayong local absentee voting, may overseas voting din naman tayo na isang buwan.
Opo.
So pwede naman sigurong magbigay ng flexibility para sa ating mga senior citizen. And aside from that, I'm sorry if I'm saying a mouthful here. We want to squeeze in
Go ahead,
as much
sir.
information as possible.
Apo.
Instead of just simply the people going to the polling precincts, why not let the polling precincts go to the people? In other words, we can set up makeshift polling precincts for special sectors, especially for those who may not be able to travel very far, including senior citizens. I mean, mall voting should even be expanded.
Correct.
To make sure that things are more convenient. Hindi naman po pwedeng maswerte ka na yung presinto mo nasa mall, kaya ikaw lang yung makakaboto. There has to be more options available for people. If you want to go to the mall, there should be that opportunity as well, especially for our priority sectors.
Opo. Okay, Prop,
Yes.
this, Maiki.
Okay. All right,
Yes.
Danny, let's shift to another topic. Medyo
Yes.
English naman. I'll try Taglish. Okay.
Okay.
Following the elections, what do you think is the state of the party list system today? I mean, gaano kabigat ang problema sa party list system ngayon? And how big of a threat is this to our democracy?
It's a threat to democracy in the sense that the party list system has been hijacked and bastardized by the rich and powerful. Based on our study, 55.13% or 86 out of 156 party list groups do not belong to the marginalized and underrepresented. We have 6 criteria. They either belong to the political dynasty, they are identified with big business, they are connected with the police or the military, they have dubious advocacies, there are limited to no information, and some party list nominees have pending cases of corruption, plunder, and other related crimes that involve the people's money.
Pushing the envelope
Yes.
further, Danny, who do you think are the specific party list systems that don't belong or that are misusing the system to some degree?
Many of them are doing well in the polls right now. Since tapos na yung election, mag-identify na tayo. AXIS, Tulfo, and Yap Dynasty yan. 4Ps, Abalos Dynasty yan. Duterte Youth, may connection sa military at police given that they red tag with impunity, and red tagging can get you killed. Who else? Tingog party list, let's not forget, it's the party list of the Romualdeses, and we all know who the Romualdeses are. How many have we counted so far? Ako Bicol is big business and associated with big business given that the cause owns SunWest, which practically controls everything in the Albay province. I know that because I'm from Bicol.
Interestingly, the party list system was designed to give the poor and underrepresented a voice in Congress.
Yes.
But how much does it cost now to set up a party list system? Danny, ilang milyon?
Let's give you a ballpark. It's around 3 million to 5 million pesos. And that's just the cheap option if you get a lawyer who's medium range. If you want a more expensive lawyer, it can go as high as 10 million pesos. Now, granting for the sake of argument that you're able to get somebody for free and who would do the paperwork pro bono, you still have to be prepared to pay a legal fee to the Commission on Elections, and it costs, guess what, 10,100 pesos. So if you're an ordinary worker, you don't have 10 million, 5 million, 3 million, much less 10,000 pesos at your disposal. For the middle class, it's possible that it's easy for them to produce the money, but if you're a minimum wage earner, getting just, let's say, getting by with only 640 pesos per day, 10,000 pesos is a big challenge. That's why the poor, the marginalized, and the underrepresented, they don't have much opportunities to really organize themselves because it's literally expensive.
Okay, all right. Now let's talk about the root cause of this influx of the elite in the party list
Yes.
system. Many say that it started with the Supreme Court ruling Palagum versus the COMELEC
Yeah.
in 2013. It opened the floodgates. Ano ho ang masasabi niyo tungkol dito?
It's about time that we revisit the Atong Paglaom case in 2013 and go back to the decision of the COMELEC 12 years before that, the 2001 Bayan Muna versus COMELEC case, where in not so many words, way back in 2001, the Supreme Court said that the party list system should be given or should be for the poor, for the marginalized and the underrepresented, which was the direct opposite of what was said in 2013, where, in not so many words, the Supreme Court said anybody can join the party list race. And when you say anybody, that would include the rich and powerful.
Sir, given that, as you said, over 50% of the people in Congress now are benefiting from this system, benefiting from this loophole, paano natin yan ma-actionan? I mean, we need a multi-layer approach.
Yes.
I mean, you think, you know, if Congress doesn't have the teeth to do this, because ang daming nagbe-beneficio dito, maybe tackle it via the Supreme Court by revisiting the
Correct.
Panglao case. So, what are your suggestions? How can we get to the root cause? And again, I just want to clarify that you're not for the abolition of the party list system.
Yeah.
You just want to bring it back
Yes.
to where it, you know, where it was to its original intentions.
Yes, that's the more accurate way to say it, because public pressure is the key here. We have to make sure that the district representatives who are part of the marginalized and underrepresented should be able to do something that they don't want to do, and that would be reforming the party list law so that we can put clear anti-dynasty, anti-big business provisions, and we would be giving it exclusively to the marginalized and underrepresented. Of course, judicial intervention would also be important. From 2013 up to now, we're talking of 12 years, we have the empirical data to tell the Supreme Court that this is what happened because of the Atong Paglaom case, and now is the time for us to rethink and probably go back to their 2001 decision. It's possible.
And
Yeah.
Danny, a day after the elections, ano ang message mo ngayon sa mga, you know, bagong lawmakers that benefited from the system and for the people that want change?
Okay.
Anong masasabi mo sa kanila?
Yeah,
The two
for
factions.
for the newly installed government officials, the people are watching. I don't want to say congratulations because some of them cheated their way into office. But at any rate, you know who you are, by the way. At any rate, in all seriousness, what I want to say is that for the people, to use a Filipino term, tuloy ang laban, because we don't expect substantial change to happen with the election, and the real change will come from our united action toward social change and toward uplifting the plight of the marginalized and the underrepresented.
Buddy,
Prof.
may
Danny,
tanong
pahabol lang,
ako.
Maiki. Bilang kayo, nagsimula kayo, 9 years na yata kayo, Prof, no?
No, 2007 po
Seven.
nagsimula yung Kontradaya,
Kontradaya.
but I joined it 2016.
Alright. Ang
Yes.
tanong ko lang po, pahabol, is paano yung participation ng tao para matulungan kayo? Kasi every election, lagi may dayaan po.
Yes po.
Opo.
Well, simple lang naman. They can join Kontradaya. Our Facebook page and our Twitter account are publicly available.
Opo.
They can volunteer for us, or even in their capacity as concerned citizens, they can help enhance the data set by providing necessary information as regards what's happening on the ground. You know, the strength of the research of Kontradaya is that it's very well grounded on reality, because we're able to crowdsource from what's really happening there, and we're able to fact-check every information that comes our way.
Prof. Danny, standby
Yes.
ka lang dyan. Sir, babalikan ka po namin, ha? Ipagpapatuloy natin ang panayam nga kay Professor Danilo Araw sa pagbabalik po ng Your Voice 2025, ang special elections coverage ng pinagsayab na puwersa ng Bilyonaryo News Channel at Abante Radyo.
This program is brought to you by Tanduan, Philippine Airlines, North Star Meat Merchants Incorporated, Newport World Resorts, Misibis Bay, McDonald's, LT Group Incorporated, The Original Jamaican Patty Shop and Juice Bar, House of Frutas, Balay Pandesal, Kapi, Cafe Aurora, and Ferinos.
You're tuned into Your Voice 2025, the special election coverage of the Bilyonaryo News Channel and Abante Radyo. Now let's take another look at what netizens are discussing online following day one of the election. Paolo.
Thank you so much, Maiki. Let's take a look at what our celebrities are saying. And there are some that are using their platform when it comes to really informing and reminding people what the term public servant really means. Take a look at Ellen Adarna's post. As you can see here, Ellen Adarna did post saying that, just speaking from experience, some are okay, grounded and respectful, but some are just barf. Yes, nasusuka siya. But we take a look at her message in general, and her message just basically tells us that to remember that they are public servants, meant to serve the people, that the people do end up paying for their salaries, as well po nila, or the food that they have on their table, and all the benefits that they do get. Kaya to hold them to accountability is her message, of course, Ellen Adarna with that post. But of course, there are still a few funny things that we are looking at. And of course, we're also looking at another response here about, okay, so mayroon na tayong mga bagong senators. What can they do to be re-elected? Why not mag-offer na po sila ng libreng rhinoplasty? Yes, pagkuhan ng ilong. And that's going to be one of the sure re-election strategies po for the first senator to be able to propose this. And let's see. Of course, all joking aside, I'm sure there are other little subtexts there on who would try and push this particular proposal. But we're not done with that because we're still going through some of the experiences that people have had sa election po natin. We're just gonna bring up a certain Rain del Rosario. No relation, pero itong si Rain del Rosario is a transgender person who went to the polls and then discovered na ibang-iba po ang kanyang appearance compared to the last time Rain did vote. As you can see here, very, very different. Munti ka na daw na hindi makaboto, but the IDs were all right. As you can see here, again, parang iba nga. Here's Rain in the last election and Rain today. Well, no surprise that pati yung mga poll watchers, I'm sure, were all questioning or we're a bit curious about the entire situation. Of course, kung anong proseso moving forward. But for now, Maiki, we toss it back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Paolo, for giving that social media update. Okay, Buddy, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Maiki. Siguro puntahan muna natin ang latest po sa partial and official tally as of 1:30 p.m. Ngayong May 13. Ang source, syempre, Comelec Transparency Media Server. Number 1 pa rin, si Senator Bongo, 26,462,999. Pangalawa pa rin si Bam, malayo ni agwat po nila, Bam Aquino, 20,627,141. Pangatlo si Paolo del Rosario with 20,250,311. Pangapat si Erwin Tulfo, nasa 16,804,842 ang boto niya so far. Si Senator Kiko Pangilinan, 15,079,964. At syempre, si Rodante Marcoleta ay nasa pang-anim pa rin pwesto, 14,895,531. Miss Maiki?
Very interesting results. Many are surprised to the upside to see some names here, particularly Bam and Kiko Pangilinan, who people thought would not, would just be kind of outside the 12. But they are so firmly in, which is a surprise to the upside for many. Another interesting thing, someone that isn't here is Manny Pacquiao. His underperformance was quite shocking. People had expected him, given that he was the people's champ, to easily be in here. But, he's nowhere to be seen. Another interesting thing is candidate number 6, Marcoleta, with 14 million votes. This was also a surprise that people were not expecting, especially as an independent candidate in these elections. All of these people had the wherewithal and, to be in this position. So it's very interesting, this composition. And what's another thing is interesting to see how they're going to vote. The impeachment trial of the Vice President of the Philippines is forthcoming. Now, it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, how these candidates, how these new senators, this new Magic 12 will vote on that decision.
All right.
Buddy.
Thank you very much. At mga kababayan, magbabalik pa po ang Your Voice 2025 Special Elections Coverage ng pinagsabi na puwersa ng Bilyonaryo News Channel at Abante Radyo.
This program is brought to you by Tanduay, Philippine Airlines, North Star Meat Merchants Incorporated, Newport World Resorts, Misibis Bay, McDonald's, LT Group Incorporated, The Original Jamaican Patty Shop and Juice Bar, House of Frutas, Balay Pandesal, Kapi, Cafe Aurora, and Ferinos.
Kayo po ay nakatutok sa special coverage pa rin ang pinagsalib na puwersa ng Bilyonaryo News Channel at Abante Radyo.
You're watching us live from Beam TV 31, Cignal Channel 24, Converge 74, and SkyCable Channel 33.
You can also watch us on our social media pages for the latest on the elections, including our website, yourvoice2025.bnc.ph.
Sa pagkakataon po ito, nasa Marikina si Joey Ribate at kukuha muna tayo ng pinakahuling balita dyan sa lugar. Joey, kamusta dyan?
Yes, kagat na alas 12 ng tanghali ng formal na may proklamang nanalo mayor ng Marikina, si incumbent District 1 Mayor Congresswoman Maan Teodoro na nakapagtala ng 142,814 na boto. Maging si dating Marikina Mayor Del de Guzman na tumakbo ng mga Vice Mayor ng Marikina ay naiproklama na rin nanalo sa pagka-Vice Mayor at siya ay nakapagtala ng 153,573 na boto. Si dating Congressman Miro Kimbo ay nagbabalik bilang bagong kinatawag ng ikalawang distrito ng Marikina Makaraang siya ay makapagtala ng nasa 86,984 na boto. Samantala, si Mayor Marcy Chodoro na tumatakbo ng mga congressman dito sa ikalawang distrito ng Marikina ay pansamantala munang sinuspinde ang proklamasyon dito hanggat hindi pa anya nare-resolba ayon sa COMELEC ang disqualification case naman na isinampa ni Senator Coco Pimentel hinggil sa kanyang disqualification. At samantala kanina rin ay namataan din namin dito sa ginaganap na canvassing dito sa Marikina Teatro ang ilang mga foreign observers na galing pa ng European Union na matamang nagbabantay sa ginaganap na canvassing kaninang umaga. Yan ang huling update mula dito sa lungsod ng Marikina para sa Your Voice 2025, Joey Abante, Abante Radyo.
Maraming salamat, Joey Abante. What's sa Marikina, pumunta po tayo ngayon dyan sa bahagi naman ng Camp Crame. At alamin natin kung kamusta ang mga nire-report na insidente ng krimen o pwedeng may kaugnayan po sa tatapos na eleksyon. Nandyan si Edwin Balasa ng Abante Radyo. Edwin.
Mananatiling naka-full alert status sa Philippine National Police sa gitna na nagpapatuloy na canvassing ng mga boto at proklamasyon ng mga nanalong kandidato sa iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa. Ayon kay PNP Chief General Romel Francisco Marbil, bahagi ito ng kanyang masusing pagbabantay upang matiyak ang seguridad at kaayusan hanggang sa formal na pagtatapos ng electoral process. Samantala, inanusyo din ni Marbil na sa pangkalahatan ay naging mapayapa ang pagtatapos ng 2025 national and local elections matapos ang pagsasara ng botohan kagabi at walang naiulat na anumang malaking insidente sa buong bansa. Pinuri nito ang lahat ng unit ng pulisya at ng mga katuwang na ahensya ng kanilang dedikasyon sa pagpapatupad ng tungkulin sa eleksyon. Ayon pa kay Marbil, tumindig at sumunod sila sa direktiba ng Pangulo sa pagtataguyod ng mapayapa at tapat na eleksyon. Bagamat may ilang naiulat na insidente ng karahasan sa mga lalawigan, mga minor technical at logistic issue gaya ng pagkasira ng automated counting machines, pagkaantala ng pagbubukas ng mga presinto at hirap sa paghahanap ng mga pangalan ng mga botante sa mga listahan ay agad naman umano itong naaksyonan ng mga kinauukulan. Wala sa mga insidenteng ito ang nagdulot ng banta sa seguridad o nakaapekto sa maayos na daloy ng eleksyon. Para sa Your Voice 2025, Edwin Balasa, Abante Radyo.
Maraming salamat si Edwin Balasa live nag-ulat buhat sa Camp Crame.
Hugot, hashtag at halalan. Ang daming digital kulitan ng eleksyon 2025 ang lumabas. Tweet ni former Senator Laila De Lima, who is aiming for congressional seat as mamamayang Liberal Party list first nominee, tweets: para sa hustisya at reforma, para sa bayan, tuloy ang laban. Former PBA player James Yap, the man of a million moves, who is seeking re-election as councilor, cast his vote in San Juan on Monday and shares, "Done voting para sa bayan." Ang sabi naman ni Teddy Casino na tumatakbo para sa Senado, taong bayan, panalo. Meron din naman nagsabi na at dahil ang haba ng pila, ang init ng panahon, tuloy-tuloy pa din ang paalala, habaan pa ang pasensya. Sa dulo ng araw, kahit na nagpapawis sa init o sa tindi ng memes at posts, isa pa rin ang sigaw ng sambayanan. Bumoto para sa bayan.
We're going to be taking a quick break. Please stay with us. This is Your Voice 2025, the special elections coverage of the Bilyonaryo News Channel and Abante Radyo.
This program is brought to you by DWAR, Philippine Airlines, North Star Meat Merchants Incorporated, Newport World Resorts, Misibis Bay, McDonald's, LT Group Incorporated, the original Jamaican patty shop and juice bar, House of Frutas, Balay Pandesal, Kapi, Cafe Aurora, and Ferinos.
Tayo po ay patuloy na nakatutok sa special coverage ng pinagsahib na puwersa ng Bilyonaryo News Channel at Abante Radyo.
Literal na naging kasing init ng panahon ang Halalan 2025. Umabot sa halos 50 degrees Celsius ang temperatura sa ilang bahagi ng Metro Manila ayon sa ulat ng Pag-asa. Sa kabuuan, 28 na lugar sa buong bansa ang naisinailalim sa kategoryang Danger Heat Index kung saan naramdaman ang 42 degrees hanggang 45 degrees Celsius na init. Ilan sa mga lugar na nakaranas ng Danger Level Heat Index: 45 degrees Celsius Sangley Point, Cavite City, 45 degrees Catarman, Northern Samar, 43 degrees Ambulong, Batangas, Butuan City, Legazpi City, Tayabas City at iba pa. 42 degrees sa Naiya, Pasay City, Puerto Princesa, Dagupan, Tugigaraw, Iloilo City at marami pang iba. Agad naman nakadeploy ang LGU ng lalo sa pamamagitan ng Lalo Rural Health Unit ng MDRRMO ng mga health post upang mabigay ng agarang serbisyo medikal lalo na para sa mga senior citizen at PWDs upang maiwasan ang mga posibleng insidente ng heat stroke, pagkahilo at iba pang sakuna sa araw ng botohan. Ayon sa Pag-asa, ang ganitong kataas na heat index ay maaring magdulot ng heat cramps, heat exhaustion at heat stroke lalo na sa mga matagal na nakabilad sa araw gaya ng mga botante, poll watchers at election workers. Sa kabila ng matinding init, literal at simboliko, nananatiling matatag ang mga Pilipino sa kanilang pagboboto. Ngunit pinakita din ng Halalan 2025 ang pangangailangan para sa mas ligtas at klima-sensitibong eleksyon sa hinaharap.
Now, let's check out the latest count on the senatorial and party list races. So, take a look at once again the Senate count here. Again, official, partial and official tally as of 2:21 p.m. At I think sasabi natin there's not real movement that we are expecting, at least mga pasok sa Magic 12 po natin, the winning 12 as it turns out. As we take a look at those who did not make it, itong si Ben Tulfo actually stands at the 13th spot with around 11,880 million, 11,880,000 votes. Let's take a look at that there. So there is this big gap between Ben Tulfo and Amy Marcos of around 2 million votes. Buddy, we take a look at yung mga underperformers din natin dito. Willie Revillame and some of the other celebrity politicians, Manny Pacquiao, even Bong Revilla, underperforming here. Jimmy Bondoc, a part of that as well. And of course, si Philip Salvador. Sa palagay mo ba, as we take a look at this, is it a sign that yung celebrity power that we've seen in the past is not as impactful as it may have been?
Siguro iba na. Talagang mas nag-iisip na ang mga botante sa ngayon. Na kung magamit hindi na pwedeng daanin na nasa sayaw pa. Hindi na pwedeng daanin sa mga, alam mo na, pakitang parang malibang ka lang. Talagang pinag-aaralan na. Yung mga botante natin, mas nag-aaral na sila sa kung sino yung tamang botante. Tamang kandidato.
I think our voter population is maturing in a sense na natututo na sila na yung pagsayaw, pagka-entertainment value doesn't translate to the policy making that they need to see to change the playing field on the ground, to change the economic trajectory of the country. Kumbaga natututo na ang taong bayan na wag madala sa sayaw-sayaw lang.
So actually, balikan natin yung top 12 po natin. And as we take a look at yung top 12 dito, Buddy, na-mention nga natin that it was not necessarily yung siguro yung pasaya, yung sayaw-sayaw lang. A lot of it has been platform-based. Actually, may nakita tayong surge ng volunteerism, especially sa youth movement. And we see that in particular with some of our members of yung top 12 po natin. Kung pwede tayo bumalik doon sa top 1 to 12, yung winning 12 po natin na graphic, especially when you take a look at si Bam Aquino and si Kiko Pangilinan in particular. Itong si Kiko Pangilinan actually came up with a statement right after he saw the results na yung habol niya was number 12 and here he is right now at 5. You take a look at the factors there. Sabi niya, late endorsements coming in, yung spirit of volunteerism, yung grassroots movement. Are we seeing a shift right now in the way that campaigning has to be done? Mikey, what do you think?
It goes to show how things can change because sa leading election surveys, pre-election surveys, niwala sila sa 12. They were just at the end eh. Pero kita mo ngayon, pasok na pasok talaga. It really goes to show that, we don't know what's gonna happen.
So let's take a look at the party list right now, the latest count when it comes to yung party list po natin. Here we have a big list over here. The top 20 in particular are those expected to get seats in Congress. As we take a look at Akbayan and Duterte Youth still leading the top 2. Akbayan, of course, with Attorney Chel Jokno of Duterte Youth. They're having a very strong following, especially in the Mindanao region. We mentioned former Senator Laila De Lima will also have a seat. She's at number 14 with ML. Of course, rounding it up is Ako Bisaya at the 20th spot and LPGMA with the 19th spot.
Yeah, Akbayan is currently leading the party list count, which is a remarkable comeback after being shut out in 2019 and in 2022. That's a potential boost for progressive education-focused policy making right there, Paolo and Buddy. Now, the Duterte youth is trailing closely behind, illustrating just how polarized this midterm cycle has been.
Yeah. Not only that, right now, the gap between the 20th spot and the 21st spot is only at 3,000 votes. At 97% na po yung pumapasok na ER process here in terms of yung clustered precincts. But sa palagay nyo ba, Buddy, ito na ba yung top 20 po natin?
Well, basically siguro, kung magkaroon man ng pagbabago, napaka-late na lang, Pao.
Yeah, well, the COMELEC is going to be, proclaiming winners soon, starting with the Senate and the party list groups that will join, the 20th Congress. So we shall see. It's not official until we hear it from the COMELEC, but these are the numbers we're seeing so far, and they're very interesting. They paint a very interesting picture.
And again, we have to emphasize again, partial and unofficial tally as of 2:21 p.m. today, and of course, that is around more or less mga 97% of the total ER's process. But we gotta talk more about how this is affecting yung day-to-day natin, Mikey. And of course, with that, we have something special that you're going to walk us through here.
Okay, other numbers. Okay, we have to check on how the financial markets are doing this time. As of 10:49 this morning, these are the figures at the Philippine Stock Exchange. A day after the midterm polls, investors are now weighing the implications of this new political landscape, with the election results expected to influence policy direction, spending priorities, and market sentiment in the weeks ahead. Right now, the PSE index is up by 1.5% to 65.55. All shares index up as well, up by 1%. Of course, we also have to take into consideration the sharp gains in Wall Street overnight. Share prices on Wall Street were up sharply overnight. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up by 2.81%. The S&P 500 up by 3.26%. The Nasdaq up sharply. Tech-heavy Nasdaq up by 4.4%. So, of course, those gains are help boosting sentiment on the local front. As they say, when Wall Street catches a cold, when Wall Street sneezes, we catch a cold too. So we're seeing the gains there. From the election front, it was a peaceful and uneventful elections. And that's a gift to the stock market. It's a gift to our capital markets in itself because investors don't like change. So going back to the numbers, the main gauge, all shares index up. As for the sub-indices, all are trading in the green, except for the mining and oil counter up sharply. We've got the holding firms, the financial counter, the property counters, and the services counters. Total volume is at under 1 billion. Value is at about 6 billion pesos. We've got a positive market market breadth with 100 advancers and 85 decliners and 47 stocks unchanged. And that is a recap of the stock market as of this afternoon, just before closing.
And of course, Maiki, I think yung tanong dito is, do you feel that the market was affected at all by what we saw sa midterm election? You did mention that the stock market does not like change, does not like anything disruptive. We're seeing a lot of green there on that screen a while ago. But then, sa palagay mo ba, this is reactionary or is it just business as usual?
I think it would be business as usual, except for the fact that Wall Street rallied sharply overnight. Up by, look at the Dow, up by 2.81, S&P 500 up by 3.3%, and the NASDAQ, tech-heavy NASDAQ, up by 4.4%. So this is, we're benefiting from that positive sentiment in the U.S. Here at home, it takes a while for people to get clarity on the situation. I mean, the COMELEC hasn't even announced who the exact winners are. Investors are very risk averse. They're taking a wait and see mode. They want to see how this plays out. They want to see the final figures, and they're not going to make any big bets until they know the direction. What's going to be the next direction? There's just so much at stake here. Investors are looking for policy clarity. They're looking for fiscal discipline, and they're looking for political stability. So all of this is I guess they're just on a wait and see mode, and those big decisions will come after the dust has settled.
Well, but in general, normally nakita natin, especially kapag national elections, especially if it's a presidential election, that's when the market tends to react a bit more noticeably. But then when we take a look at midterm elections, like the one we just had here, do we typically, especially looking at past elections, expect variance or change?
There is volatility from a historical perspective. There is some volatility leading into this, changing of the guards. This is the new 20th Congress of the Philippines. They're going to set the next economic trajectory. These are the leaders that the business community are going to be working with to get their, permits and everything that they need to do. So it's interesting to see this change, but mostly what investors don't want to see is any drastic changes.
Yeah.
They just want steady, predictable norms. They just want to be able to understand and maneuver in a way that's going to benefit their businesses and the economy as a whole.
Oh, that's a great question. Buddy, predictable ba ang susunod na buwan dito sa Philippine political scene in particular?
Ang predictable yung sasaya ng mga nananalo so far.
So far.
So doon muna tayo.
Doon muna tayo.
And predictable rin yung lungkot ng mga natalo.
Predictable
Very
din yan.
predictable rin yun.
Of course. Diba, kakasabi lang natin kanina, tapos na po yung liquor ban.
Yeah.
Kaya para sa mga iba shot puno, kahit panalo, talo, ayun.
Pero dapat isang araw lang ang election.
Isang araw lang.
Isang araw.
Oo, tama. Okay, let's move on from that, Mike.
Okay, we're going to be taking a quick break, but please stay with us. This is Your Voice 2025, the special elections coverage from Bilyonaryo News Channel and Abante Radyo.
McDonald's, LT Group Incorporated, Cafe Aurora, the original Jamaican patty shop and juice bar, House of Frutas, B1T1 Takeaway Coffee, and Ferinos.
Nagbabalik po ang Your Voice 2025 special elections coverage ng pinagsaib na puwersa ng Bilyonaryo News Channel at Abante Radyo. Sa pagkakataong ito, nasa linya ng telepono si COMELEC spokesperson Attorney John Rex Laudianco. Magandang hapon po, Attorney Rex. Attorney Laudianco, magandang hapon po. Attorney? Okay. Babalikan natin ang linya ni Attorney John Rex Laudianco, ang spokesman po ng Commission on Elections sa ilang sandali lamang at mahalaga rin siguro at this point in time, a day after plus alas 3 na rin or lagpas na alas 3, malaman din lang din natin, Pao and Maiki, kung ano yung assessment nila and at the same time, iba pa nilang pinagkakabalansa ngayon ng mga concerns.
Exactly. And of course, kanina kasi narinig natin yung mga complaints ng NAMFREL, ng PPCRV, tungkol sa missed data packages, duplicate data, at syempre yung transparency when it comes to yung sa servers. At one point, yung sabi ng PPCRV, yung nakita daw nila was only around 79.9% of the votes, while COMELEC sees 98%. Pero klinaro naman nila na maganda naman yung communication nila sa COMELEC. So, of course, we want to hear more about that. And I think that's always a concern.
Interesting to see the big picture from him, you know, how fast the transmissions have been relative to the previous years. At least from the COMELEC, we can get a bigger picture of you know, their take on the ground. But what's interesting is nothing major, no major big glitches. And I guess we can be thankful for that. No, walang malaking gulo, walang failure, no failure of elections, nothing untoward. Everything that we've been hearing about has been just small.
All right.
Which is a blessing. Okay, let's hear from him.
Nasa linya ulit natin ang spokesman po ng Commission on Election. Attorney Rex, welcome back ulit. Okay na po ba kayo? Naririnig nyo kami?
Sir Paolo, may Maiki, magandang hapon po sa lahat ng ating taga-subaybay. Good afternoon po.
Ako na po ang una magtanong. Simulan po natin, siyempre, wag muna sa problema. Attorney Rex, kamusta po so far overall assessment ng COMELEC sa tinatakbo pa rin ng katatapos na halalan?
Na maayos po ang naisagawa natin halalan kung saan po ang hallmark po ng halalang ito ay yung bilis dahil nakita naman po natin halos 99% na po ang natatanggap ng mga election returns at yan po yung ikalawang hallmark po, transparency dahil ang lahat ng resulta ng bawat presinto, whether dito po sa Pilipinas, sa abroad, pati na rin po yung nag-local absentee voting ay maaari nating makita ang boto. Hindi lang para po dun sa mga partikular na kandidato, kundi lahat ng kandidato na resulta sa presinto ay makikita po natin.
Attorney Rex, ano ho ang masasabi mo tungkol sa turnout numbers? Initial figures show that it's slightly higher than in 2022, but it's still strong given the absence of the presidential race on the ballot. Ano ho ang masasabi niyo tungkol dito, Attorney Rex?
Tama po, natutuwa po kami na ganung kataas nga po bagamat wala pa pong opisyal na pronouncement ang COMELEC dahil alam niyo naman po ang voters turnout ay kinukuha ng COMELEC mula sa mga certificates of canvass na nakakanvas. Dito po kasalukuyan ngayon sa National Board of Canvassers. Nakakailang COCs pa lang po kami. Hayaan niyo po i-update natin dito. Pero siguro po, sapat na maipagmalaki po namin, mataas po ang ating voter turnout compared po sa parehong halalan noong 2019. Normally po kasi ang midterm elections po ay hindi ganong kataas. Nag-average lamang po ng mga 55 up to 60% ang ating voter turnout. Pero yan po ay nalampasan natin dito ngayong 2025 kahit pa ito ay nananatiling midterm elections lamang.
Attorney, balikan muna natin yung mga statement ng PPCRV and of course yung NAMFREL po kanina na nananawagan na sana mas transparent daw po yung bilangan. At one point, sabi po ng PPCRV na 79.9% yung nakita nila na boto habang yung COMELEC daw nasa 98%. May konting discrepancy po daw. To their credit po, they did mention na klaro po kayo in terms of yung communication po ninyo with regards of providing explanations po. Sa delay na po, with that delay in mind, what were yung issues po? At if I'm not mistaken, hindi po daw siya technical issue from yung side ng COMELEC.
Actually, technical issue po siya talaga, no? Dalawang bagay po siguro hatiin natin. Una, yung delay. Tama po kayo, nagkaroon talaga ng delay. Dahil po yung ating servers na nakakatanggap, kasama na po yung server ni media at nila PPCR Vietnamfrel, para po ang resulta dyan ay maipadala namin sa mga individual na mga laptops po para maibato nila sa kanilang sites at kung saan pa ay pinoproseso. Yan po ay pinapackage po yan para magkakasama every 15 minutes po kasi. So lahat ng resulta na natanggap for 15 minutes, pinagsama-sama po yan, pinoproseso dahil na-encrypted po ito. Tandaan natin, encrypted po. Yan ang pamamaraan para magbato ng sa gayon kung walang maka-intercept at kung meron man hindi mako-compromise ang data. At dahil ito ay dinedecrypt pa at pinagsasama-sama para magkahiwa-hiwalay, ma-identify alin ang kay presintong ganito, alin ang kay presintong ganon. Sa dami po ng pumasok, nagkaroon ng proseso. Ang problema po kasi doon sa sistema yung sequencing. Ginawa po niya noong umpisa, habang natanggap po niya ito ay tinatapos niya muna yung naunang pinoproseso habang dumarating yung mga kasunod ng resulta. At maglalabas lang po nung pangalawang bulto ng resulta kung natapos na yung naunang pinroseso. So kaya po tumagal ng mahigit isang oras. Ito po ay atin ang niremedyohan. Ginagawa na po ng servers ngayon na sabay-sabay na. Habang may dumadating, pinoproseso sa isang banda, yung pangalawang set ay pinoproseso na rin po. Nang sa ganun, as soon as matapos po ang pagproseso, lumalabas ang resulta at yung mga kasunod ay sunod-sunod na rin pong lumalabas. Malaki po ang improvement natin mula nung kaninang madaling araw na na-experience natin yan at nalaman din po natin na aware na. Pero isa po ang malinaw na bagay dito. Kahit po natagalan sa proseso, yung pong nabanggit ko kanina na server nila, tuloy-tuloy po ang pagkakatanggap. At alam po ng mga tao ng PPCRB, ng NAMFREL at ng media na nandoon sa aming data center na tama, natatanggap nga po, kasabay na kasabay ng COMELEC. Yun lamang po ay hindi nila maipadala dun sa kanilang secondary laptop. Ang ikalawang issue po ay yung nakikita natin sa ilang mga entities na nagkakandak ng quick count na kinukuha po nila yung data nila mula dun sa kanilang media server. Ganito naman po ang nangyari dyan. Dun sa parehong sequencing, kung natatandaan nyo, yung unang bulto, pinoproseso, naghihintay na matapos, pinoproseso yung pangalawang bulto. Ang nangyari po kasi, nagkaroon po ng overlap yung mga naunang bulto. Yung halimbawa po, yung 1 to 5 na pinoproseso ng package 1, yung kasunod po sana ay ang poproseso, yung package 6 to 10, naidamay po, naidamay yung nauna, yung number 4 at number 5. So nung nakarating po sa kanila yung dalawang package, kung hindi po maayos ang sistema nung tumatanggap, mabibilang at mabibilang nila. Pero nakikita po nila na naulit lang. So anong nangyari po? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So kitang-kita po natin na yung dalawang presinto na nabilang at nasama nila nung una ay nabilang at nasama mo muli. Pero ito rin po ang malinaw dyan. Tuloy-tuloy ang pagtanggap, walang double transmission, walang double entry. Nagkataon lang po ng pagdodoble doon po sa kanilang paglalatag sa kanilang quick count.
Attorney Rex, technical issues talaga yung primary na dahilan ng mga delays. Matanong lang din po namin sa panig ng mga social media stuff, kumbaga like fake news, maling impormasyon tungkol sa halalan ng mga kandidato. At any rate, naka-apekto po ba ito sa conduct ng ating election this year?
Nako, hindi po. Alam po namin, meron pong iba na, alam naman po natin, tanggap natin na merong ibang naniniwala po kaagad sa social media. Kaya nga po patuloy tayo nakikiusap na ang COMELEC po ay na transparent naman po lahat. Ang mahirap lang po dito sa bagay na ito, napapakinggan po natin yung mga nagsasalita sa nasa labas. Pero hindi po nadidinig yung opinion ng mga tao mismo ng PPCRB, ng NAMFREL at iba pang mga media organizations na nandun kasama, na witness po sila doon sa pangyayaring tuloy-tuloy ang pagtanggap na nagkadoble lang at na-identify po lahat. Hayaan niyo po para po madagdagan ng kumpaliwanag natin na ito. Pagkatapos po ng ating canvassing, pinangako na po ni Chairman Garcia, ang lahat ng logs po ng ACM, pati na rin ng 5 servers ay ipapakita sa publiko natin sa pamamagitan ng ating website. At doon po mapapatunayan namin. Sabay-sabay kayo may tumanggap, walang pinakaibang tinanggap ng COMELEC at yun po ay tuloy-tuloy. Kumbaga po, ang na-delay lang talaga ay ang paglilipat ng resulta sa kanilang secondary laptop para ma-i-upload po sa kanilang website.
Attorney Rex, moving forward, what's the timeline for official canvassing and proclamation of the winners, and what are the races that are too close to call yet?
Batay po sa aming pagtataya po, ang ating pong mga maliliit na bayan o mga munisipyo ay inaasahan namin nakatapos na po kaninang umaga ng kanilang mga proclamation. Yung mga malalaking syudad naman po ay nakatapos hanggang kaninang tanghali, at yung mga highly urbanized cities at mga provinces po at yung iba't iba pang bahagi na malalaki po ay matatapos mula ngayong hapon at ngayong gabi. At ang patunay nga po dyan, meron na pong natatanggap ang National Board of Canvassers mula doon sa 175 na ina-expect namin na COCs, na meron na po kami natanggap na 10. At inaasahan po namin na magtutuloy-tuloy po ito, at kami naman din po dito sa NBOC ay tuloy-tuloy ang aming canvassing.
And sa kabuuan, sir, how confident is the COMELEC with the integrity of the automated elections so far this year? And ano ho ang matutunan natin dito sa midterm elections na ma-apply natin sa sunod na halalan ng 2028?
Ang confidence level po namin ay mataas. Bakit? Dahil mula po sa simula hanggang sa dulo, ang transparency po ay hallmark namin. Ibig sabihin po mula sa procurement, mula sa paglalatag ng plano, hanggang in-implement ang mga ating mga plano dito, dumating ang makina, tinesting, hanggang sa ginawa natin ang halalan at ngayon nagsusuma at nagka-canvas po tayo, lahat ay transparent, lahat ay auditable, lahat ay accountable at naisa sa publiko po namin ang mga datos. Yan po ang pinaka-importante sa COMELEC. Ano pa po ang nakikita naming improvement? Una, yung mga parte na may human intervention or human interaction. Halimbawa na, katulad nitong paglilipat ng resulta, papaayusin natin yung proseso, hindi na mabilis po, nang hindi na maulit din yung nangyayari, nagkakadoble, nagkakapatong-patong at naghihintayin yung proseso ng pagbabato ng resulta. Patating naman po sa mga aming priority polling place, nais pa po namin bigyan ng mas mataas na voting experience ang ating mga senior citizens, persons with disabilities at mga pregnant women doon sa PPPs. Hindi naman po namin madadagdagan ang kwarto ng paaralan. Kaya po napipilitan po kami talaga minsan, nandun sila sa second or third floor, pero pagagandahin at ayusin pa namin ang PPP sa ground floor. Dadamihan namin ng tao para yung mga pupunta po doon mula madaling araw at hanggang sa maghapon, mas mabilis ang kanilang pagboto. Tinitingnan na rin po namin yung paggagawa po ng paglilipat o pagre-ready na ng balota ng mga ating mga vulnerable sectors nang sa gayong pagdating nila doon, hindi na namin i-retrieve. Kumbaga po, pinaghandaan na namin yung kanilang pagdating. Marami pa pong iba pero ang nakikita po namin ngayon patungkol kung saan merong individual na tao na gumagawa ng proseso ang nais po namin tutukan.
Attorney, first time using yung Miro systems na ACM. When we take a look at yung mga machines that had to be replaced or machines that had errors, do we have any solid numbers po? And of course, kung saan po nagka-aberya?
Opo, 311 lamang po ang pinalitan po na makina out of the 94,000 na machines po na na-deploy po namin. Wala pa pong 1% po yan, napakaliit na bahagdan. Comparing to 2022 elections, ang napalitan po na VCM noon, and all of these are major issues po, 1,500. Ang mabigat pa ng 2022 elections, kulang ang aming spares ng mga machines. Ang tagal, inabot ng gabi, oras bago napalitan, kalahating araw. Pero ngayon po, tama po, merong nagloko na makina, pero tignan niyo po, puro minor issues, scanner, printer, baliktad ang pagkakakabit ng thermal paper. Pero ano po ang rule namin, bakit pinalitan namin? Dahil ayaw po ng COMELEC na magtatagal. Kung aabot lang din ng 60 minutes ang pagkukumpuni niya, madali man niya no mahirap, palitan na kagad ang makina. At ito po ang patunay na naging successful po ang plano na yan. Meron po problema, pero wala po tayong nadinig na nagreklamo na natagalan sa pagpapalit ng makina. Wala po tayong naging delay kahit na merong pinalitan na makina.
Opo, Attorney Rex, yung tanong lang din kanina balikan ko, yung pong proklamasyon ng 12 senador, ano po yung timeline?
Wala po kaming maibigay pero dahil po sa bilis po ng pangyayari ngayon na natatanggap namin, ang sabi po ng Chairman Garcia, inaasahan namin baka hanggang Sabado po ay kumpleto na nating maiproklamang 12 senador at yung unang bahagdan o bahagi po ng ating party list group. So bakit po namin nasabi na unang bahagi?
Apo.
Dahil kailangan po para sa party list makompute mo yung 63 seats ay total number of party list votes. Hindi po total number of registered voters, kundi total number of party list votes. Kailangan po makuha namin ang lahat ng party list votes para po makapag-compute kami at ma-distribute doon sa 63 seats ang mga nanalo.
Attorney Rex, pahabol din, ito importante kasi siyempre mga bayani kayo sa COMELEC, lalo tigit yung mga partners nyo and mga election workers natin nationwide. Kamusta? Wala naman pong naging biktima ng karahasan o kaya may masamang nangyari sa kanila. Kamusta po sila in general bilang pasasalamat din namin para sa COMELEC?
Nako po, maraming salamat po sa inyong pagkilala. Pero kami po sa COMELEC, tunuturing po namin ito na trabaho po tungkulin lamang ang totoong bayani po talaga na kinikilala namin dito. Unang-una, ang ating mga teachers, ang ating mga pulis, ang ating mga sundalo, iba pang security at law enforcement partners katulad ng Philippine Coast Guard at lalong-lalo na po ang ating mga bayani, mga kababayan na hindi natakot lumabas ng bahay. Meron pa po kami mga kinikilala. Naghanda po ang COMELEC doon sa mga lugar na nagkaroon ng kaguluhan tulad sa Dato Odin Sinsuat, sa Dato Saudi ang Patuan. Ready po kami ng PNP na na-train namin tungkol sa ACM, na sinertify at nag-examine po sa DOST. Napapalit just in case may umatras ng mga guro dahil sa takot o seguridad. Pero tingnan nyo naman po, kahit anong nangyari po, wala po kaming nalaman. Lalong-lalo na doon sa nagkagulo sa Dato Odin Sinsuat na hinarang yung mga electoral boards. Wala pong umatras. na electoral force. Hindi namin kailangang i-deploy yung mga nakareserba po namin ng PNP. Kaya po, taos-pusong pasasalamat at pagkilala sa kanilang kabayanihan. Kaya po kami ngayon ay nandun na po kami sa puntong minamadali na po namin ang kanilang honoraria dahil po ito'y maliit na sukli sa kanilang kabayanihan po.
Attorney Rex, day 1 after the elections, it's 3:30. Sa ngayon, meron bang mga nagreklamo tungkol sa initial results, and kung meron man, ano ang maging remedy? What will you do? What's the process, sir?
Opo, pwede po sila magsampa ng isang election matter case o di po kaya ay isang election protest. Yun lamang po ang tanging paraan kung ke-questionin po ang pagkakabilang ng kanilang boto. At yun din po ang pinapayo namin doon sa nagkiklaim na iba ang nakalagay sa resibo, iba ang binoto ko, hindi nagtutugma. Alam niyo po, napakadali sabihin yan. Mula ng automated elections tayo ng 2010, ganyan na po. Ang mabigat, sila lang po nakakita ng balotan, napakadali sabihin. Kaya nga po, pinapayo namin, hindi namin binabaliwala ang sinasabi nila. Ngunit ang sinasabi po namin, dali natin sa legal na proseso. Kung may sinasabi kang ganyan, gumawa ka ng sinumpaang sulaysay. Sumpaan mo yan dun sa minutes, tindigan mo yan, manumpa ka dun sa sinasabing reklamo. Dahil pag dumating sa punto na inibestigahan at binuksan namin yan sa pamamagitan ng isang election protest, dapat panatilihan mong tindigan yan. Yan po ang nangyari, kung matatandaan nyo, noong 2022, nagpaboto tayo sa Hong Kong. Agad-agad may nagsalita po ang kababayan natin, hindi nagtutugma, hindi ko ito binoto, ito niloloko, dinadaya ako. Pagkatapos po ng halalan, nagutos ang Commission and Bank. Binuksan po namin ang ballot box. Tinugma at tinapat namin doon sa mga resibo. Wala po kaming nakitang discrepancy. Hinahanap po namin siya hanggang ngayon. Ngunit tinigilan na lang po namin. Sabi namin, sige na, at least napatunayan namin yung totoo. Sana po sa mga nagsasabi, paulit po kami, hindi namin binabaliwala ang inyong concerns. Kaya lang may legal na proseso. Sana po mag-execute kayo ng sinumpaang salaysay. Tindigan ang inyong sinasabihan at isa-ilalim natin sa legal na proseso ang lahat ng ito.
Attorney John Rex Laujanco, muli maraming pong salamat sa inyong oras ngayong hapon.
Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay po.
Mga kaibigan, natin pong spokesman ng COMELEC, Attorney Laujanco. Samantala, magbabalik kami ang Voice, Your Voice 2025 Special Elections Coverage ng pinagsahib na puwersa ng Bilyonaryo News Channel at Abante Radyo.
This program is brought to you by DWAR, Philippine Airlines, Balay Pandesal, North Star Meat Merchants Incorporated, Newport World Resorts, Kapi, Misibis Bay, McDonald's, LT Group Incorporated, Cafe Aurora, the original Jamaican patty shop and juice bar, House of Frutas, B1T1 Takeaway Coffee, and Ferinos.
Kayo ay nakatutok pa rin sa Your Voice 2025, ang special election coverage ng pinagsahib na puwersa ng Bilyonaryo News Channel at Abante Radyo. Sa pagkakataon po ito, nasa Romblon ang ating kasamang si Paul Jason Foss, kung saan lumikha ng kasaysayan ang nanalong gobernador doon. Paul.
Opisyal ng iprenoklama ng Provincial Board of Canvassers si Trina Fermalo Fabic bilang nanalong kandidato sa pagkagobernador sa lalawigan ng Romblon matapos ang formal na pagbibilang ng mga boto kanina. Si Fabic ang kauna-unahang babaeng uupo bilang gobernador ng Romblon, itunuturing na makasaysayang hakbang sa politika ng lalawigan. Sa kanyang maikling talumpati matapos ang proklamasyon, ipinabot niya ang taos-pusong pasasalamat sa mga bumoto sa kanya at nangakong ipapakita ang tunay na kahulugan ng mahusay na serbisyo mula sa pamahalaan. Binanggit din niya ang kahalagahan ng pagkakaisa at pangangailangang isang tabi ang politika upang maisulong ang mga hangarin para sa ikabubuti ng bawat Romblomanon. Idineklara rin ng Provincial Board of Canvassers si Leandro Madrona bilang nanalong kongresista at si Armando Gutierrez bilang vice-gobernador ng lalawigan. Para sa Sangguniang Panlalawigan naman, idineklarang panalo sa 1st District sina Aaron Riano, Maria Rosarian Solis, Horminio Mortel, Kari Falculan at Abner Perez. Para sa 2nd District naman, nanaig sina Irene Morgado, Robelin Solis, Benizar Maravilla, Natalio Beltran III at Ricmel Falqueza. Para sa Your Voice 2025, Paul Jason Foss, Abante Radyo.
Maraming salamat, Paul Jason Foss, nag-ulat live mula sa Romblon.
Ilang artistang kandidato ang nanalo sa midterm polls. Nasa linya ngayon si Mildred Bacud. Mildred, nadagdagan ba ang mga artista nating politiko?
Yes, good afternoon po. At nadagdagan na nga ang mga celebrities na nanalo. Ang halalan nga na ito, ang masasabing maraming mga artista ang tumakbo kapag artista nga raw bentahe para manalo, pero hindi rin, dahil kung marami ang pinalad ay marami rin naman na bigong manalo. Sa senatorial race, ayon sa latest poll votes, hindi na natitinag sa kanilang posisyon sina Tito Soto at Lito Lapid. Samantalang lumalaban pa rin si Bong Revilla sa 13th at 14th na pwesto. Sa layo naman ng ranking ni Manny Pacquiao, Willie Revillame, Philip Salvador at Jimmy Bondok ay mukhang malabo na raw makahabol. Nakaapekto raw yata ang pagalit na pagbibigay ni Willie ng jacket habang nangangampanya. Wagi naman as congressman sa 4th District ng Leyte si Richard Gomez, Arjo Atayde sa 1st District sa Quezon City, Jolo Revilla sa 1st District ng Cavite, Inang Silani Mercado sa 2nd District ng Cavite, ang anak ni Ate V na si Ryan Christian Recto sa 6th District ng Batangas. Samantala, hindi naman pinalad si Marco Gumabaw sa 4th District ng Camarines Sur, EJ Falcon sa 2nd District ng Oriental Mindoro, Director na si Lino Cayetano sa 1st District ng Taguig City. Sa Governor, panalo pa rin sa puso ng Batangas si Vilma Santos at si Daniel Fernando pa rin ang binotong ng nakararami sa Bulacan, samantalang hindi pinalad si Dan Fernandez sa Laguna. Sa Vice Governor, ang singer-actor na si Alex Castro pa rin ang pinili ng mga botante. Samantalang bigo naman sa unang pagsabak sa politika si Luis Manzano sa Batangas, ganun din ang dating singer na si Jem Castillo Amante sa Laguna. Sa pagka-mayor, pinalad pa rin si Lucy Torres Gomez sa Ormoc, Vico Soto sa Pasig City, Jennifer Mindanao Cruz aka Ina Alegre sa Pola, Oriental Mindoro. Panalo naman sa Pasig at as councilors sina Angelo De Leon, Pasig 2nd District, Kiko Ruscia, Pasig 1st District, Aiko Melendez, Quezon City 5th District, Alfred Vargas, Quezon City 5th District, ang anak ni Isko Moreno na si Joaquin Dumagoso sa Manila 1st District, Lou Veloso ng Manila 6th District, James Yap at Ervic Vihandre sa San Juan, JC Parker sa Angeles City, Pampanga, Maricel Morales sa Angeles City, Pampanga at Kai Cortez, Taytay Rizal. Pareho namang hindi pinalad ang dating mag-asawa na naging controversial na sina Marjorie Barreto sa Caloocan 1st District at Dennis Padilla sa Caloocan 2nd District. Hindi rin pinalad si Aramina sa Pasig 2nd District, Shamsi Subsub Pasig 1st District, Enzo Pineda, Quezon City 5th District. Hirit ng mga netizens si Aiko lamang daw. Ang mga ex ni Jomery Iliana ang pinalad. Para sa Your Voice 2025, Mildred Amistad Bacud po, Abante Radyo.
Maraming salamat, Mildred Bacud.
Mula sa Quezon City Hall, alamin naman natin ang latest mula kay Just Ignacio. Just, ano ang pinakabagong update dyan?
Maiki, Buddy, Paolo, opisyal lang na iproklama ang mga nanalong kandidato dito sa Quezon City pasado alas 10 nitong umaga ng Martes sa May 13, 2025. Ito ay matapos na nakumpleto na o 100% completed na as of 9:54 nitong umaga ng City Board of Canvassers ng Comelec, Quezon City ang kanilang nabilang na boto mula sa pagkaalkalde hanggang sa mga kongresista at konsihal ng Distrito 1 hanggang Distrito 6. Batay sa datos na kanilang naitala, muling nasungkit ni incumbent Mayor Joy Belmonte ang pagkaalkalde para sa kanyang ikatlong termino, kung saan nakalikom ito ng 1,030,737 na bilang ng boto. At si incumbent Vice Mayor Gian Soto naman din muli na nakakuha ng 938,686 na boto ang makakasama ni Belmonte sa pamumuno ng nasabing lokal na pamalaan. Para naman sa pagkakuring kongresista, tanging ang Distrito 4 lamang o District 4 ang may bagong uupong kongresista matapos na makalikom ng 91,856 na boto si dating kongresista Attorney Bong Suntay. Lamang ito ng 239. Sa katunggali nitong si Marvin Rillo na nakalikom ng 91,617. Para naman sa iba, nananatiling si incumbent Congressman Arjo Atayde pa rin ang nanalo para sa Distrito 1. Gayun din para sa Distrito 2 si incumbent 2nd District Congressman Ralph Tulfo, incumbent 3rd District Congressman Franz Pumaren, incumbent 5th District Congressman PM Vargas, at sa District 6, si incumbent 6th District Representative Marivic Copilar. Pasado alas 11 naman nitong tanghali noong natapos ang proklamasyon. Para sa Your Voice 2025, Just Ignacio, Abante Radyo.
Maraming salamat, Just Ignacio, nag-uulat mula sa Quezon City.
Alamin natin ang pinakahuling bilang po ng resulta pa rin ng halalan para sa mga bagong senador at party list.
As of 2:21 p.m., ito po ang Magic 12 po natin or yung winning 12. Senator Bongo still leading the way with 26 million votes. At a distant second, bit of a surprise candidate dito, si Bam Aquino. Of course, Kiko Pangilinan also making surprise appearance dito sa winning 12 natin. Rodante Marcoleta also coming in strong, defying some early surveys. And of course, Camille Villar, Lito Lapid, and Amy Marcos rounding out yung 12 po natin. Senator Ping Lacson also having a strong showing at number 7. Buddy, kanina pa natin pinag-uusapan na baka there is a shift on the way campaigning has to be done considering na si Bam Aquino and si Kiko Pangilinan have had such strong showings dito sa midterm election natin.
Ang sinasabi ng mga nakausap natin, Paolo, Maiki, na yung dalawa, hindi sila talaga nakisawsaw sa lahat ng issue, sa lahat ng init, ng bakbakan ng dalawang kampo. Tumutok lang sila kung ano yung gusto nilang uling gawin, given the chance na makabalik ng Senado. And I guess yun isa sa mga na-appreciate ng marami.
You know, the senatorial race is taking shape, and it's a mix of familiar names and comebacks. What's interesting to see is Bongo is leading comfortably, whereas Bam Aquino and Bato de la Rosa are, you know, they're going neck and neck for that second and third spot, suggesting that both the opposition and the administration slates are finding traction with voters. Another surprise, the strong showing of independent candidates like Rodante Marcoleta and Ping Lacson, who are outperforming better funded party bets. That's interesting also. And again, these are the partial and unofficial counts. They reflect early transmissions from the COMELEC transparency server. While the rankings may still shift, the lineup already offers us some clues on voter sentiment and which narratives resonated the most in these midterm elections.
Well, I'm sure pag-aaralan to in terms of kung sino po yung nag-endorse and of course yung mga political moves, especially towards the end, considering itong si Camille Villar and si Amy Marcos in particular, making that shift leaning to VP Sara Duterte towards the end of the
10, 11, and 12, ang lapit lang nila.
Of
no?
course, and let's
Very
take a look
close.
at yung 13 and below in terms of yung Senate count po natin as we take a look at those who just missed out. Ben Bitag Tulfo, Bong Revilla, and Abby Binay are the three closest. We say closest, but around 2 million po ang agwat between Amy Marcos and Ben Bitag Tulfo. Ben-Hur Abalos, Senator Manny Pacquiao, former Senator Manny Pacquiao, despite the late endorsement from former Vice President Leni Robredo, not able to push further than that. And of course, we're seeing, kanina pinag-usapan natin yung celebrity factor. Willie Revillame, Bong Revilla, in particular, Philip Salvador, Jimmy Bondoc, not having the required push with that particular title going into these elections. And again, possibly new ways of looking into yung campaigning po natin.
And let's take a look back at those, that Magic 12. Balikan po natin yung Magic 12. Let's take a look at these faces because these are the names and faces that will likely set the next the direction for our country's economic trajectory. Now, for the business community, this election is about stability versus shift.
Yeah.
The makeup of the 20th Congress is going to determine whether the Marcos administration retains legislative support, the support they need to push key economic priorities. I mean, will it be tax reforms, foreign investment incentives, or charter change, which is going to get traction? All of these will stall under a more diverse or divided chamber. Now, the 2026 budget, the national budget, and big-ticket economic bills, these are all going to be hammered out by the new Congress. These faces that we're seeing, possibly these guys. I guess the PSC index closed at 1.7% today. Investors are in a wait-and-see mode. They're tracking these key positions. Who heads the Senate? That's up next.
Yeah.
Who heads the economic committees? And whether the new power blocks will lead to unexpected policy turns.
And of course, Sir Buddy, nagiging numbers game din to because one thing looming on the horizon is the potential impeachment.
All the more exciting ang magaganap.
Yeah.
All the more exciting.
Paano kaya sila boboto?
Paano sila boboto?
If anything, anything for sure, it's that may pagbabago, madaming pagbabago, and you never really know what's what.
So before we wrap this up, let's take a look at yung party list po natin and how they all finish. We're going to take a look at yung top 20 po sa party list with Akbayan leading the way with Attorney Chel Jokno and his supporters very happy with their number one showing. Duterte Youth and Tingog following that, of course, rounding it all up in positions 18, 19, and 20 is Co-op Natco, LP, GMA, and Ako Bisaya. Kanina, sinabi natin that there was a bit of concern whether or not the later returns could, we could see a bit of a shift right now, at least base sa Comelec Transparency server with around 97% of the vote accounted for. The gap here between the 20 and the 21st spot is around 3,000 with CWS still hoping that things would change. So yan po yung closest to yung top 20 po natin. But looking here, kanina pinag-usapan natin about the pros and cons of party lists, and we are seeing a few very familiar party lists still very high up sa top 20 po natin. But no surprise really, to be quite honest.
Yeah, hindi naman nakakasurpresa lang talaga. Ang malungkot lang is sana nga matuloy-tuloy din na ma-check ulit yung party list system sapagkat masyado siyang dominated ng mga political clans and parties din. Hindi na yung marginalized talaga.
Baka masilip uli para maibalik yung party list system sa original intent,
Correct.
which was to give those marginalized and underserved a voice in Congress. Pero ngayon, kita natin kung sino-sinong mabibigat na ang nakaupo
Nasa
dyan
likod
sa
nito.
party list system. So we'll see what this 20th Congress of the Philippines, what they do to amend that system to make it more equal and fair.
At syempre, mahalaga pong narinig na rin natin ang boses, nakaboto na ang marami at kami naman po ay nagpapasalamat. Kami po ay inyong mga nakasama sa loob ng 3 oras. Ako si Buddy Oberas.
And I'm Maiki Oreta. Continue watching Your Voice 2025 live from Beam TV 31, Cignal Channel 24, Converge 74, and SkyCable Channel 33.
Thank you so much to our EP, Attorney Cathy Merza, and of course, Derek Arnela Kobe. I'm Paolo del Rosario, Your Voice 2025, the special election coverage brought to you by the Bilyonaryo News Channel at Abante Radyo will continue in just a bit. Don't go away.